Welcome everybody to the first video for my channel where I will be taking you, the audience, on a journey with me as I discover all of the major Batman story arcs throughout the comics. And what better way to kick it all off than with Batman Year 1, which is Batman issue 404, came out in 1987, written by Frank Miller, and the art is by David Mazzucchelli. So the story starts off with James Gordon riding public transportation, and his thoughts start racing on how bad public transportation is and how bad it is in the lower underbelly of Gotham. Then on the flip side, it shows Bruce flying above in the sky looking down on Gotham, and he's thinking to himself, like, this is like any other city, right? It's pretty beautiful from up here, but he knows what it's like on the ground level. Then we get a lot of thoughts on Gordon, who is wondering about his wife's pregnancy test. Barbara's at home waiting the results, and Gordon is thinking, like, do I want to raise a child in Gotham? And from everything I know from the actual movie series, I don't think Gotham is a place where you want to raise a kid. Bruce arrives back to Gotham for the first time in 12 years, which is pretty crazy. I'm guessing he was off mourning the loss of his parents, maybe studying martial arts, something like that. I don't know. They didn't point out that Harvey Dent, who I know from the movies is Two-Face, but probably not yet at this point, has gone missing. Then we get to meet the commissioner of the police force as he's accepting Gordon into the ranks, and he states right away that he's like, I don't care if you're honest or what kind of mistakes you make, as long as you keep it out of the media. It's like, what? That is the kind of police force that you're going to have in Gotham? Bruce gets home for the first time in 12 years. He gets to meet Alfred, but then his mind immediately starts to think about his parents. We didn't get to see Gordon hitting the streets with his new partner named Flass, who right away gets out of the car, walks up to a bunch of street punks, and knocks one out cold for no reason at all. I love the thought process they give us here from Gordon, and throughout the whole issue for that matter, but in this particular scene, he stands back and he's like, I know better than to get involved with a dirty cop yet until I have enough proof to bring him down. So he stands back, he analyzes it all, and he's like, I'm going to bank this for future reference. Which just again goes to show you why Gordon is so concerned about raising a child in Gotham if his first example of his partner with the police force is acting like that. Whew. Could be his child getting his tire beat out of him, right? About a month goes by and he's still partnered up with Flass, and Flass points out, well, you know, Gordon, you got a baby on the way, which confirms that, you know, they got the results of the test and he is going to have a baby. Now, here's where I think this is a defining moment for Gordon, because he's realizing, okay, well, I'm locked in now, I got a baby coming, so he has to do everything in his power to clean up the streets of Gotham, right? It kind of like becomes his mission, and it's all related to his child. He wants to make the city a good place to live. As they're driving around to different scenes, Flass calls him Jimmy, and I like how Gordon just corrects him right away, and he's just like, no, you can call me Lieutenant, right? Like establishing, hey Flass, we're partners, but we're not friends, right? Especially after the stunt he just pulled. A few more weeks pass by and we see Bruce out working on his martial arts, and he states, like, you know, something feels off about this, so I'm going to hold off for now, before he becomes the vigilante that we all want him to be. We get a great scene of Flass walking into the commissioner's office and asking if he can beat up Gordon for being a good cop and not taking bribes. Like, does Flass really think you're going to be able to beat down Gordon into submission? I don't know. From what I know of Gordon, from the movies at least, I doubt it. We get another bit of a time jump, and then we got Bruce now sitting in his car in the dark, contemplating his first act as a vigilante. I love that he set up an alibi for Bruce Wayne while he's in a car applying cosmetics and adding a big scar on his face so that when he's done his vigilante act, whatever he's about to do, the main thing that the witnesses, if there are any eyewitnesses, what they're going to remember is that the person had a large scar on their face, which was just fake, and he can remove it afterwards. How clever is that? Yeah, that part made me sit back in my chair, and I'm like, man, this is the kind of clever, high IQ plays that I look forward to getting from a Batman comic, and I'm loving it. Gordon then gets jumped by several thugs with baseball bats who clearly know who he is. He then recalls his military training to try to put up a fight against him. Now, I didn't know Gordon had a military background. They don't mention what division he was in. So if you guys wouldn't mind, comment down below, let me know his military past. As these thugs get the better of Gordon and are beating him down on the street, they mention, oh, you should be more worried about your pregnant wife at home, which is like a subtle threat. That, like, what, his wife's going to be next? How sick is that, right? I mean, just before he passes out, he hears the laughter of his partner Flass from far off. At this point in the story, I'm thinking Gordon is going to lose his shit. Why? Because it's one thing to be the target of him, right? Yeah. But then when you start threatening your family members, that's crossing the line. I don't think he's going to stand for that one bit. The story then switches to the harsh east end of Gotham where Bruce is walking in the street, and we really get to see how harsh it is when this young underage girl approaches Bruce and then tries to sell herself to him. Oof. You know you're in the wrong part of town when that's just the normal thing to happen, right? Now, Bruce was not letting this slide. He ends up getting into it with the pimp while Selina watches from a window above. Now, from watching the Dark Knight trilogy and the other The Batman over on my movie reaction channel, I do know that Selina is Catwoman, so I'm excited to see where that goes. And what a great first appearance for Selina in this story, at least, when she's up above there and she's looking down and she makes a comment that, like, she's never met a real man in her life. I guess she's always been treated like shit her whole life, so it's pretty dark. Now, Bruce kicks the pimp's ass, which we knew would happen, but not before getting stabbed brutally in the leg by the same girl he was trying to defend. And I love Bruce's thoughts here where he's like, well, I thought by making an example of the pimp, that would make all the other people in the area, put the fear in them so they wouldn't get involved here or back off. Nope. What do? They all dogpile Bruce and beat the shit out of him. We then see Selina hop out of the window, start fighting Bruce, and coming to the defense of the young girl named Holly. Batman kind of made short work of Selina and pointed out that she only knew karate, which makes me think that Batman has a much larger martial art background, which I'm excited to hopefully get more into later, or you guys can comment down below and let me know the extent of Batman's martial art history. Then the friggin' cops roll up. They don't even give Bruce a chance to do anything, and they just start shooting, saying, hey, he's coming right for me. He was going to act. Like, what? Brutal. They put Bruce down cold with one shot. They slap some cuffs on him. They throw him in the car, start riding off with him. Now, one of the cops seemed to have a bit of a moral conscience about it and saying, this ain't right. We shouldn't have shot him. He's bleeding out. We need to get him to the hospital, this kind of thing. But then the other one is just being like, no, trying to talk him out of it. So at least there's a hint that there's still some good cops on the street, right? No, Bruce was saying to himself that he's not going to jail on the first day of being a vigilante and ruining the name of Bruce Wayne forever. So what does he do? He friggin' hulks out and rips the handcuffs off. I know Batman doesn't have super strength. I heard that he might be at peak human condition, but how is it that he was just able to rip handcuffs off like that? You can comment below and let me know if there's something I'm missing. Bruce leans over, takes out the driver, which causes the car to flip over, light on fire. Here he is, injured. He only got a few seconds to live, and he was wrongfully detained. But he still takes the time to think that these two cops probably have families, and no matter what, he's going to make sure that he gets them to safety before the car explodes. That's the first real sign that I get of his true heroic nature coming out, right? Because you don't know with Batman. Sometimes he's real grim dark, and then other times he's just like justice and a hero. So I don't know what kind of Batman I'm getting here. I think we're getting a pretty good show of his character. It was at this part of the story that it clicked with me of the similarities of the storytelling between Gordon and Bruce up to this point. Gordon gets a new partner even though he'd rather be doing things alone, whereas Batman, they just show him all alone. Gordon gets jumped by a bunch of goons, while Bruce got jumped by a pimp and a bunch of street people. They both get seriously injured, and then it shows them both in their vehicle, bleeding out, and then driving frantically. And then what made it even better is it shows both of them nearly crash into each other that night, as in their paths have crossed. They don't even realize it, but they're both in a bloody mess and just swerving all over the road. They give us a little bit of Batman's thoughts here, and he's like, man, I really thought that those street people would have been afraid of me when I set that example, but they didn't. So now he's trying to think of a way that he needs to use fear as a weapon. We then get to see Gordon get to his destination. He's sitting outside of a house waiting for Flash to come out. But a lot of other police officers come out in the meantime, and he's like, no, I'm ignoring all them. I know they're bad guys as well. But he's totally locked in and focused and waiting for Flash. Now, before I flipped the page of the comic here, I sat back and I was thinking, okay, how do I think Gordon is going to handle this? From the Gordon that I know, I'm thinking he's not going to seriously try to kill Flash, or anything like that. But I know he's probably going to go with the fear approach. Like, he's probably going to try to put the fear in him, just like Batman, because they just spoke of the Batman part. And I'm like, at this point, I think we got the two stories that are locking in with each other like that. Now, Gordon catches up to Flash in his car and friggin' rams him off the road. And coming up here now, this is the defining moment where I realized that Gordon is a badass. They approach each other with guns, and they both agree to throw their guns away. However, Gordon tosses Flash a baseball bat to even the odds. What? Despite Flash being the bigger man with Green Beret training, Gordon was willing to fight him at a disadvantage. Whew. Now, Gordon is the man. At this point, he beats him down with such ferocity, but yet precision, so that he won't need to be sent to the hospital, but yet he's gonna totally cripple him. He strips him naked, cuffs him behind his back, leaves him on the side of the road. My God, did he put the fear in him. And like I said, this is the moment where I realized Gordon is a badass character. He's not just a normal, moral street cop. No, he's got a good edge to him. We then get Bruce brooding in his manor, sitting in his chair, wounded, thinking of his father and wondering if he should go on living or not, or if he should just die right here and now. Realizing all the things that were left to him, like the money and the manor and the cave under the manor and Alfred, all of these things, and he still doesn't feel like he's prepared to do what he needs to do as a vigilante. But then he says, like, I got no patience to wait around. He's got to take action. We get to visually see the thoughts of Bruce here as he's remembering the defining moment with his parents that totally shattered his life and defined his character. At the same time, the glass of the manor shatters as a bat flies into the window, screeching. Bruce sits back and realizes that as a kid he was terrified of a bat. Now it's become apparent of what he needs to do. He needs to become a bat. And it ends with that little panel of the bloody hand on the bell, which is going to call Alfred. And he was contemplating, do I call Alfred to save my life? Or do I not and just bleed out here? And that's the moment where you know he's going to pick it up and ring it because he just got purpose to be the Batman. I give this issue's artwork a 4 out of 5 bat signals. Although there isn't much detail in the art style adds to the dark, gritty nature of the comic. I give this issue's story a 5 out of 5 because it did an amazing job of telling Bruce and Gordon's origins in detail and showing their similarities. My favorite moment and panel in this issue had to be when Gordon just showed how badass he truly is. The next part of my Batman journey is linked right here on the screen, so go on and click it and I'll see you there.